Now we go to look at the East Ramapo up in Rockland County. East Ramapo is a school district that includes Kaiser and New Square, which have grown by about 50% since 2000 with an influx of Hasidim. The district has approximately 9,000 mostly minority public school students and more than 20,000 pupils, mainly in private Jewish schools. With us right now on the line to discuss the situation, Rabbi Aron Hart is a founder of Uri L'Tzedek. He studied Yeshivat HaKotel, the Pardes Kol, Yeshiva Chovei Torah, originally from Chicago. He now lives in the Bronx. Aron Wieder is a Rockland County legislator, majority leader for the Rockland County legislature. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you. Let me begin with you, Rabbi Hart. I know that you're Uri L'Tzedek, and you've been working with a coalition of clergy called the Rockland Clergy for Social Justice, a group of rabbis, priests, and imams, Preserve Rockland, a local outfit seeking to counter the Hasidic bloc up in East Ramapo. In your perspective, what is going on in East Ramapo that has gotten you and your organization's participation?
Great, thanks. Well, first I just want to say it's a tremendous honor to be here, to be speaking with both of you tonight and with your listeners, and I look forward to a respectful and productive discussion.
So let me say from the onset, we're going to open up our lines. We're going to examine the issues, but everybody has to be respectful, and of course we expect the conversation to be civil throughout the evening. That's our policy on air. I've stated publicly, but I've stated time and again. So anyway, we appreciate both of you being here with us. So as you were saying, Rabbi Hart.
So thank you. So, just a little bit of history. We founded Uri L'Tzedek about almost 7 years ago because there was a feeling that amongst many from Jews, especially young Orthodox Jews, that there was a desire to be Shomer Derech Hashem Lasot Tzedakah Mishpat, to be protectors of God's way, to do righteousness and justice in the world, and to be a blessing, a blessing that the Jewish people, Am Yisrael, should really serve as a blessing for Kol Yoshvei Tevel, that we should be a force of good and of positivity for the world. And through this work, we've taken on lots of issues, everything from domestic violence to the rights of prisoners, homelessness, gun violence. We've been active on many different issues, but some of the most, controversial have been issues like this, where we've stood up and said that something happening within our own community is not fulfilling the mandate of what we're supposed to be on this earth as Yidden, to really be an Or L'Goyim, to really make this world a better place.
And I might add, we didn't have you on. We've had on Rabbi Shmuel Yankelevich many times, including in the Rabashkin case, where they had worked. I believe you was working with the workers up in Iowa.
That's correct. And actually, I think I was actually on the show once with you to discuss the Flaum situation and other similar situations.
Okay, that's correct.
Ago. Yeah. So in terms of this issue, something it's many people have been following the news and the stories coming out of the school district for many years. It's been talked about, at the Shabbos tables and in New York Magazine. It's been written and discussed a lot. And from our perspective, we sort of saw the brewing, what is in our eyes a real Chil Hashem, a real Chil Hashem, something that should be taken very, very seriously. And also what appeared, what looks to our and many, many others' eyes as a crumbling of a school district that at one time was a really a very strong school district and has really fallen from its glory in many significant ways over the past couple of years. And we saw that happening under the leadership of a school board that had a supermajority of Orthodox Jews. And to us, that said, this is the Chil Hashem. This needs to be addressed. There needs to be an Orthodox voice that steps up and says that, Orthodox Jews are not for the dismantling of public schools. We do support those who are vulnerable. We do support education for all. And there needs to be a voice that's standing with these students supporting that. Now, I know the Honorable Mr. Wieder will disagree, and I look forward to that debate, but that was our perspective, and it remains our perspective.
And when did you get involved? Because the takeover or the voting of more of the religious community, I believe was around 2005. We're now 2014. So when did Uri L'Tzedek get involved?
So we got involved in the past couple months, and one of the reasons we did not get involved was because it did not seem like there was a constructive way to get involved. as many of the listeners probably know, it's a very tense situation. There is a lot of, there's a lot of anger on both sides, and it didn't seem like there was anything productive to just jump in amidst an angry fray. But when we saw a group of grassroots leaders who were coming up with productive solutions, who were not just angry or accusing or yelling, and screaming, who were not anti-Semitic, who were really approaching this from what our perspective seemed to be a very constructive way forward, that's when we got connected with this group. This is Rockland Clergy for Social Justice. You mentioned another group, something about Ramapo or something. We have no involvement with any group beside Rockland Clergy for Social Justice. That's who we are partnering with, and we support their goals. Their goals are to have the state provide some fiscal oversight to the district. That's the immediate goal.
Why should the state provide fiscal oversight? Usually these boards are controlled by the people, the inhabitants of the area. Why should the state control this one as opposed to any other one? Because usually whoever gets voted in decides where the money goes. That's how it works in all the school districts in New York.
Right, that's correct. That is how it works. The case of this school district is that the parents of the public schools do not feel as if this school district is serving their interests. Many of these parents have tried for years to get the board to be more transparent, to provide more information about where funding is going, and that's been very, very difficult. And there's also a number of current, open investigations looking into some of these very questions about how money is being used in a school district. And there's also been a pattern of mismanagement, of selling a public school to yeshiva for, several $1 million under the correctly appraised price, and other issues with hiring of attorneys who have been abusive to parents, and then keeping those attorneys still on the school board. There's been a pattern of many questions about how the board is being governed, and those answers have not been very forthcoming. So what this grassroots group is asking for some more transparency from the school board to the public. We feel like that's a reasonable thing to ask for.
So you raised some interesting issues. I'm going to turn now to Aron Wieder, who's very much involved with that. He's also been on our program before, so good luck to you. Thank you, Aron. You've heard what Rabbi Hart has to say. So what's going on in East Ramapo?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck. Appreciate to be on your show. Very respectful show. The longest Jewish show in New York, and it's a real honor. I hope to get equal time. I listened to Ari's presentation and arguments, and I would like to respond.
Sure, go right ahead. That's why I asked you to.
On many issues, and I think it's not going to be just one-liners. Ari got involved 4 months ago, and the issue with East Ramapo is something that involved in the 4 months is not suffice to be able and go out with proclamations and to really get the crux of the issue. And I'll ask a simple question to Ari. Do you know the graduation rates in East Ramapo for the last 15 years? Hello?
Yes,
do you know the graduation rates, he asked you, for the last 15 years in the East Ramapo?
I've seen some different statistics about graduation rates. I have not seen over 15 years. I've seen over the past 7 years, I've seen graduation rates are low, especially relative to neighboring districts.
Well, there's no several statistic. There's only one number, and that's the number issued by the state. The state education department issues report cards to every single school district and to every single school, elementary, middle school, high school, and it's a very extensive report. I urge Ari to go online and to look to all these reports and see if what I'm about to say is accurate. Okay? He'd mentioned the fact that East Ramapo has once been a very, very good school district, and that is true. The reason why East Ramapo, and I've heard it from many parents. Before I go into the whole conversation, I would like to be upfront and tell you that I was on the school board. I'm not on the school board 3 years. I've been on the school board for one term, which was a 3-year term. I was on the board I became the vice president of the board after my first year, and then I became the president of the board for the last couple of months. And I was intimately involved with the public schools, with the PTA, with the teachers, with the students. I used to go talk to the high school students, and I used to read books in the elementary school, so I have a vast knowledge of what's happening in East Ramapo. So what happened in East Ramapo, and that's for the town of Ramapo, it was once a middle to high class white town. Mostly, well, I would say conservative and Reformed Jews, very affluent at some point, and about 95% of the student populations were white. Demographic changes, and that's exactly what happened to East Ramapo. Some Haitians and African American and Latinos moved in, along with the Hasidim, and all of a sudden the demographic of the school district started to change. And I've heard this from parents, African American parents, who said, middle of the 90s there was the white flight. So many families moved out, and that changed the whole demographic of the school district, where now we have over 95% of minorities in the school district. And I must say, most of these children, they come from single-parent homes, they come from immigrant families, very struggling. And when I was in the school board, we pushed very much on so many issues to capture these students and give them a sound education, because data shows that a student that drops out of high school lives a life of crime mostly. Where do they commit the crimes? They don't travel over the bridge in Westchester. They stay in the neighborhood and they commit crimes. Furthermore, my wife gave birth 5 years ago for my youngest child in a hospital in Nyack. It was a very difficult birth, and the nurse was so wonderful. She was a graduate of East Ramapo. We have a vested interest in the public education. So the first thing when we got on the school board, what we looked at is the data. Lo and behold, no one talks about this at all. Before the Orthodox and the Hasidic people got involved in the school board, the graduation rate decreased at an accelerating, alarming rate. We were at the 80s, and we went down to the 60s. And this goes back about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the budget was about $140 million, $145 million. The graduation rate was about in the 80s. The budget went up to close to $190 to $195 million, and the graduation rate dropped to the mid-60s. And that was extremely alarming. The Frum community was not involved at that point on the school board. People didn't say anything. Now let me say this. The last couple of years, the graduation rate increased tremendously. We already passed the 80%. We're marking the 80% marking point. We hired a new superintendent. We told him, your focus has to be on the graduation rate, because if a student graduates, they have a greater chance to go into college, and they have a greater chance to be a success in life and for the general community. We hired a new assistant superintendent for the high schools. The previous one was very not involved. And we did so many wonderful things to focus on the graduation rates. And if you look at that pattern, you see that the graduation rate stopped dropping and started to increase. But that's an important component that I wish Ari would have known before he got involved. And to say that, oh, there are several statistics, there's no such a thing. There's only one statistic, and that comes from the State Education Department.
Rabbi Hart, you want to respond to that? I was just curious, because that seems that has gone up. That's a positive thing.
Yes, if the graduation rate's gone up, that is a positive thing, and we certainly support that. And at the same time, you have a lot of statistics that have gone down. You have the school district, the lowest scores on New York State English, Language Arts, and Math tests of all of Rockland County school districts. You have 9 of the 14 of the public schools in the district deemed as schools in need of improvement by the New York State Department of Education. So those are trouble signs. And then on top of that, you have investigations and lawsuits, a class action lawsuit by parents, the U.S. Department of Education and Civil Rights, the New York State Ed Department investigating. The New York Civil Liberties Board, they're investigating. New York State Ed. I certainly applaud the graduation rates, and they should continue to grow, God willing. And at the same time, there's still this pattern of a school board which many of the parents, thousands of the parents feel is not representing the best needs of their children. And that includes also the cuts. We'll talk about some of the cuts that have been going on.
I'm going to let
music and sports, collaborative classes.
Well,
yes.
Let Aron respond. Go ahead, Aron.
Ari, it's so interesting you mentioned full-day kindergarten cuts, right? It's terrible, right? Can I ask you a question? Who introduced full-day kindergarten in the East Ramapo Central School District?
I know it was under the school board's leadership in the past.
Of course, there was always a school board. Of course, it will be under the school board leadership. But at what time? You kind of get an inkling where I'm getting.
So, but no, I understand. I know that under your leadership, you were instrumental in creating that.
Well, the FRUM, not me, the FRUM board introduced full-day. Before we got involved, before there was a FRUM board, there was no full-day kindergarten, a full-day kindergarten program in the East Ramapo Central School District. Now, I will grant you this, where the FRUM community failed is in the perception arena, in the public relations, and that's why many things that I'm about to speak about you don't know. Because, of course, you live in the Bronx. God bless you. I know your intentions are good, but you're misguided. And what you came to know is about what you read in the New Yorker and elsewhere, and talking to McWilliams and Oscar Cohen, right? But you might have had a conversation with a board president. You might have exchanged one email with the current board president. But I would have loved for you to pick up a phone and call me and have a conversation, have a cup of coffee.
Did you ever have a cup of coffee before tonight? Hold on. Did you ever have before tonight?
It is inaccurate. It's been alleged by Rabbi Shafran and now by you that I never spoke with the current board president. That is not true. We spoke. Well,
you had
on the phone at length.
You spoke on the phone with him once or twice.
Let's okay.
Let's
not say that. Let's not. Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to go there. Well, I'm just saying I would have loved that you would have picked up the phone and spoken to me. Then you would have probably been privy of many of the information we're about to discuss tonight.
And I want you to pick up on that point, but we're going to have to break. I wanted you to pick up on that point. It's, I think, a fascinating discussion about East Ramapo School District in Rockland County, which includes Kaiser and New Square, and has about 9,000 mostly minority students and more than 20,000 pupils, mainly in private Jewish schools. And our guests are at different ends of the spectrum dealing with the community there. Rabbi Aron Hart is a founder of Uri L'Tzedek, and they are part of a coalition that is Rockland Clergy for Social Justice, a group of rabbis, priests, and imams, and they're looking to counter the Hasidic bloc. And Aron Wieder is involved in the Rockland County legislature, where he is the district leader. And when we come back, we will take your phone calls at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Aron Wieder is a majority leader, I should say, in the Rockland County legislature, where he's there. And your phone calls at 212-769-1925. You want to email us, zev@talklinecommunications.com. That's zev@talklinecommunications.com. You want to Facebook, you want to Twitter, you want to Google Plus us. You find you on Twitter, by the way, we're Talkline Network. And if you have an Android phone, please check out our app. Our app is either punch in Talkline or Zev Brenner, and you can download it and listen to us 24 hours a day on your phone. And don't forget, we're online 24 hours a day, and our listen line is 401-347-0304, extension number 1. When we come back, we'll take some of your phone calls. We'll continue our conversation looking at East Ramapo Public School District. Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Rabbi Aron Hart is with us, a founder of Uri L'Tzedek. He is part of also Rockland Clergy for Social Justice, a group of rabbis, priests, and imams that are looking to counter the Hasidic board in East Ramapo, New York. And Aron Wieder is a Rockland County legislator and a majority leader there as well. And we're going to get to your phone calls at 212-769-1925. If you're on the line, please hold on. We're going to get to you. I interrupted you, Aron, so you were making a comment when we broke. So I'll let you continue, Aron.
It is the Frum board that knows how important education for the public and the private school is so important, have introduced a full-day kindergarten program, because we realize many of these students, they come from immigrant homes, single-family homes. If we capture them, the data shows if we capture them in the kindergarten, we'll have to spend less money later on in the education system, and you capture these students, you give them a head start in education. It was the Frum community that introduced a full-day kindergarten program. Now, when the cuts came, and East Ramapo is not different than any other school district throughout the United States and in the state of New York. Currently, there are going to be close to 16,000 teachers cut in the state of New York from school districts. This has been a struggling issue since the gap elimination adjustment by Governor Patterson, where they decided to balance the budget in the state of New York on the backs of education. And that needs to be said. So it was this school district, this school board, the Frum board, that introduced full-day kindergarten. Furthermore, it was this board that fundraised privately in the Frum community. And I will ask Ari, do you know what the Frum board fundraised money for the public schools?
I'm aware of that.
What did they fundraise money for?
My understanding is there was fundraising for the kindergarten.
No. You see, that's the problem. You should have been more involved. You should have talked to me and other leaders, and I guarantee you would have gotten involved and would have been able to solve the problem. It's not too late, though.
Well, maybe we can. That's
the
what I'm
Frum
hoping
board
tonight.
Fundraised.
So okay.
The Frum board fundraised money for the East Ramapo marching band's uniforms. We had the best marching band in the region. They were called down to Disney World to perform, and we tried to fundraise money for.
But then you let go of the director who went to another district. Now the marching band is in tatters. It
wasn't the board. It wasn't the board that let go of the director. Actually, it was the union that decided to give this director off. I sat with him we were fighting the union to give him the credits, and he should be able to stay with East Ramapo. And the union didn't want to support him. And I must say, there are people who want to see the district fail so they can say, aha. And the following year, the district were able to speak with the state education department and try to get him back. But it was already too late. It was
so let me ask you a question. We have a lot of people calling. I
will add this, though. He mentioned there is currently a class action lawsuit that is false, and the judge said that it's false. It's not a class action lawsuit. So you need to check your facts.
So let me come, Rabbi Hart. Is there a class action? Where did you get that from? What in your from your company?
There is currently a lawsuit.
There is currently a lawsuit.
Hold on, let Rabbi Hart go ahead. Go ahead, Rabbi Hart. Yes.
There's a lawsuit from hundreds of parents, which has a lot of allegations in it, and each one is worth discussing, but probably won't have time to go through each piece. But including in that lawsuit is records of public schools buying. Is the school board buying yeshiva books like Learn How to Daven, books like stories like learning about Rav Moshe, all wonderful things. Like I support.
But Ari,
let him finish. Let you respond.
Ari has no business buying those.
Okay,
Ari, let him finish. I'm going to let you go first.
No. Oh, but I would have to finish my sentence. No. I would like to respond.
I'm going to let you respond.
First and foremost. You said each and every issue is worth discussing. Guess what? The judge already discussed it and dismissed 8 out of 9 issues. So we're down to 1 issue, and it's not worth discussing if a federal judge decided there's no merit to it. That's number 1, and I'm sure you're not aware of that too. Number 2, there are many parents that sued the school district, and wanted to have this as a class action lawsuit. And if it's a class action lawsuit, it's totally different in terms of the mechanics of it and the weight of the lawsuit. And that's why they were pushing for a class action lawsuit, and that's why Ari is continuing saying that it's a class action lawsuit. And the judge admonished the attorneys by telling them they shouldn't call this a class action lawsuit because it's not. Okay? And this goes to the conversation I currently have with Ari. Now, as far as the books are concerned, I was on the school board. All these wonderful, wonderful people being on the board, they don't get paid a dime, a nickel, a penny. They do it for free. They meet once or twice a month. Ari, do you know how many books the school district purchased that year? A number.
Well, tell us how many books.
I will tell you. As long as he doesn't know the facts, I got to tell to him. I'm sorry, Zev. I have to. 85, not 100, 85,000 books. Do you think that the board members went through the 85,000 books? You got to be kidding me. There is a staff for that. There is currently a staff.
Never be purchased by a school board.
I understand. Agree. So someone in the purchasing department didn't do their job, and they were taken on.
Okay, so we can blame it. We can blame it on us.
But for you to perpetrate and say that it was the board, but for you to perpetrate to say that it was the board that bought these books is preposterous.
So let me talk to Rabbi Hart. So what books? How many books are we talking about?
Out of the 85,000 books,
how many
books were troubling? I asked Ari. He made the accusation.
I've seen a list of. It was a long list. I don't have the exact number, but it was many books.
You see, you don't have the facts. That is the problem.
Dozens of books. I didn't count every single.
I think this is a broad issue.
Let Rabbi Hart. Aaron, I'm going to let you respond. Aaron, I'm going to let you ask the question to Rabbi.
There were 20 books.
20 books.
Total of 20 books out of 85,000. 20 books. I want the listeners to hear.
So let Rabbi Hart
20 books out of 85,000.
Okay, fine.
That the school board had no say in any of that.
Let Rabbi Hart go ahead, Rabbi Hart. So it's 20 books. Would that be a number? You said a dozen. So that would fit in with what your research showed?
Yes, and this is part of
Aaron, please let him respond. I'm going to give you a chance. Go ahead, Rabbi Hart.
There's a broader pattern. Yes, we can go back and forth on each point and have facts, and there are facts and figures on both ways. But if you look, I want to read an op-ed that appeared in The Advocate, by Mendy Hoffman. This was a few years ago, right before school board election. It says, "It's no secret that a supermajority of East Ramapo students are in yeshivas. In East Ramapo, where almost all the students are in private schools, the board needs to be accountable for them first." That's what this op-ed says, encouraging people to vote for the current slate of the school board. And then it says if people have problems with it, public school parents, if they have problems, what should they do if they have such strenuous objections to the work of the school board in the town of Ramapo? They should move somewhere that suits them better.
But hold on a second. Rabbi Hart, let me ask you.
What I'm saying is...
Hold on, Aaron.
What I'm saying is...
Aaron, one moment. Go ahead, Rabbi, and I'm going to have a question, Rabbi Hart. And I'm going to let you, Aaron, respond, and we're going to get to our phone calls. Go ahead, Rabbi Hart.
So you have op-eds like this, views like this. You have a pattern. You have board members that insult parents, that hire attorneys that insult parents.
Not true. Which board member insulted the parent? Not true.
On record.
Who? Which board member? Now, you made an accusation.
Okay.
Give me a name.
Aaron, I'm going to give you a chance. And now,
not true. You're confusing with the attorney. You see, that's the problem.
No,
he knows
the board president called
One second. Rabbi Hart, was there
former school board president called the parents miscreants. That is an insult. That is insulting.
Not true.
Hold on one second. Did he do it when he was a former school board or when he was a school board member? Or when he was a member? When he was a member.
And he didn't call parents miscreants. He called people who were disrupting a school board meeting. Most of them are not public school parents. I guarantee you, the people that Aron Hart is involved with don't even send their children to public schools and don't even have children in the public school system. Reverend McWilliams doesn't even live in East Ramapo. He lives in Dutchess County. Now, let me say this. Just to put out the facts, and say things like the board bought these books is completely, blatantly false. And the problem is, he reads from the Advocate. Do you know who publishes the Advocate?
Who publishes the Advocate? In the interest of time, because...
It's Mendy Hoffman, I believe. He has Mendel Hoffman.
Does anyone have to answer for Mendel Hoffman? He's an individual. He's not the board. He has nothing to do with the board. It's like, and by the way, what year was it? What year was it published?
This was published 5 years ago.
Okay, so it's like current day. That I will have to go on record to defend every tweet written about East Ramapo.
But let me ask you this question.
It's ridiculous. When you read an op-ed by a newspaper published by a local guy who has no connection to the public school and the public school systems, and in that way tarnishing an entire board, that is. But by the way,
let me ask you a question. What Mendel Hoffman said, and you have over 20,000. Forgive me, but I'm not from the area, but from what I understand, you have 20,000 parents that send their kids to private school. You have 9,000 parents that send their kids to public school. You have a public school board. This is true in Lawrence and other areas. We have more parents that have sent their kids to private school being more involved in the regular public school board to make sure that the yeshiva kids and the parochial kids also get a fair share of the pie. What is wrong with that? I mean, I
would say this. The problem that we have, and I think the problem that Ari has, is the concept that it's mutually exclusive. So say, for example, because when we were on the school board, we were able to enhance the education for public schools. We were able to keep taxes at a bearable, amount. It increased every year, and we were able to do and give the minimum, what you're mandated, but in a very respectful and streamlined way for the private schools. To say that one has to come on the backs of the other is completely misguided. Someone has no clue in education, in the way public school and the way school boards and the way taxes work.
Now, we're going to have to break, and I understand your point you made, Aaron.
I would urge Ari Hart, before he gets involved in such a sensitive issue, to spend not 4 months, but to spend at least a year.
Okay, well,
and then he would know the
even
facts,
less than a year.
And then he will be able to respond to someone like myself when I'm debating him.
Okay, let me have Rabbi Hart quickly respond, then we're going to break. We have a lot of people waiting to speak to you and a lot of emails coming in. So, Rabbi Hart...
I guess, Mr. Wieder, what I just don't understand is all the...
You can call me Aaron.
Okay, Aaron. All the many students that I've spoken to who feel dispirited, who feel like their future's being robbed, all the cuts, including full-day kindergarten and many other cuts on foreign languages, on clubs after school, technology clubs, things kids need to succeed, sports teams, paying insurance for the school bleachers.
That's the
pattern of all the investigations from different state agencies, from different,
Aaron, let him finish, please.
Let me finish.
Aaron, let him finish. We're having a conversation. Let him finish.
Let me just finish my thought, and then you can respond. And throw into that, then the selling of a public school to yeshiva for $7 million less than it's worth, an illegal sale. How can one not see a pattern? How can one not see a pattern of a school board that does not serve the best interests of its students? And how can one not see a major Chil Hashem? I mean, this is serious. This is serious business.
I will give you this. There is a pattern of failing in the public relations arena, because I could turn around to you and I could say the following: there is a pattern of a board who is extremely involved with the public schools, where you have graduation rate increasing, a board that is fundraising a tremendous amount of money for the public school from private funds, where you have a school board being extremely involved and introducing budgets which is above austerity when they had every right to adopt an austerity budget. And you have a school board who's been extremely involved intimately with the children, going to the public schools and so on and so forth. Yes, there were cuts. But can I ask, Ari, do you know the cuts? And I'm going to name you many school districts now, and I would like you to tell me, do you know what is being cut from a school district called Western New York? 500 to 700 layoffs. A school district in Niagara Falls eliminating 101 positions, including 50 teachers. School district in Capital Region in Schenectady. Do you know how many positions are being eliminated in Schenectady? How many programs? Ari.
Look, I'm agreeing.
Do you know in Carthage? Do you know in Carthage how many teachers are being? Do you know in Syracuse how many teachers are being eliminated? How many programs are gone in Syracuse? Do you know?
It doesn't change the fact that this
350 positions. It is very now when you're talking about these investigations, and I need to respond to that. For example, you say that the federal whatever is investigating a school district. You know how these investigations initiate? You have a Reverend McWilliams or whoever, and I don't know, and I'm just being hypothetical, sending in a complaint. Now they have to take every complaint and follow up on it. That's what government is there. And they will have to come and look into the issue. And by the way, that's the way that these guys are trying to bankrupt the school district, because all these investigations and audits and cost the district a tremendous amount of money. So you have put in a complaint, a false complaint, they come in and investigate, and no one talks about the report where they said there's nothing there. So you can name a whole list of group of people and government agency investigating, not a single one of them coming back with a report that they were found, that the investigation found something to it.
So we're gonna have to break right now, and you're here speaking right now. You hear is Aron Wieder, Rockland County Legislative Majority Leader, and Rabbi Aron Hart is a founder of Uri Letzedek, and he's together with an organization called Rockland Clergy for Social Justice that are looking to make changes in East Ramapo, New York. If you're waiting on the line, we're going to get you. 212-769-1925. Our numbers 212-769-1925. Email us zev@talklinecommunications.com. And you're listening to Talkline over WMCA 570 AM New York, WJPR 1640 AM in Highland Park in Edison, New Jersey, online at talklinecommunications.com, and our 24-hour day listen line, 401-347-0304, extension number 1. Our guest, Rabbi Aron Hart, founder of Uri Letzedek. He's part of the Rockland Clergy for Social Justice. Aron Wieder is a Rockland County legislator, also majority leader. And we're going to get to your calls. Please be succinct and to the point, 212-769-1925. And I thank Rabbi Menachem Siegel for sending in the email. Yes, we have to all pray for the Jews in the Ukraine. Very, very important. And here's an email from BC to Rabbi Aron Hart. Kol hakavod to Rabbi Aron Hart for his important work in Hatzlacha Rabbah in his fight for justice. It is an inspiration to see young, dynamic rabbis not afraid to take on important social issues. Let's go to Ruchi from Muncie. Ruchi from Muncie, you have a question for our guests.
Yes, hi. I actually don't have a question. I actually have a comment. As a parent of a special needs child in the East Ramapo School District, I have actually 2 different points to give. My daughter was a public school child for kindergarten, and then we switched her to the private school. One point that I want to bring up that Aron Wieder had mentioned, and I had noticed also, is that the majority, and yes, it was the majority of the students in East Ramapo School District are both black and Hispanics. And I had a couple of times a chance to meet those parents. Some of them were wonderful. I mean, most of them were wonderful. Some didn't speak English. But most of them, and I have to probably say all of them, the parents that I had met, couldn't read or write English. Some could talk, some could speak English, but most of them couldn't read or write English. And at that particular moment, I was struck by that, is that how can a parent that doesn't read or write English help the child succeed in school if they don't know that language? And that the East Ramapo School District has wonderful teachers. They really try very hard, but this is what they have to work with. And to say that a district is not doing well based on something that parents can help them is very disingenuous from Ari. I believe his name is Ari.
Rabbi Aron Hart, yes.
Yes, Rabbi Aron Hart. It's very disingenuous to say that. To say that. Not to say that these public school parents didn't want to help their kids, but they couldn't help their kids. They couldn't teach them A, they couldn't teach them B, they couldn't teach them 3 + 3 is 6. They didn't know the language, they didn't know what they were teaching, what the students were teaching. I even had one parent there that came that didn't even speak a word of English. and also to her for showing herself up for a PTA for her teacher.
Okay.
She didn't even speak for herself.
Rookie, I appreciate you making those points. And
Rookie, thank you. And thank you.
Hold on, let Rabbi Hart
hold
respond.
accountable. Look, it's not the school district's fault that it's a challenging situation. There's no doubt it's a very challenging district to manage. The question for me is, when a school board tries to manage a district and it's subject to so many investigations, and investigations that have, by the way, come up with conclusions, like the New York State Department of Education, which found that the board is, quote, engaged in a practice of placing students with disabilities in private schools when appropriate placements were available in public facilities. Or the NYCLU, which said that they're concerned over the board's failure to maintain its commitment to the principles of public participation to ensure that educational decisions take into account all voices in the community. Or when you have the sale of a public school to yeshiva for millions of dollars less than it's worth. That's the problem. The problem is the management. The problem is not that it's a challenging district to manage. I certainly agree that. The problem is when the board does things that are not either in the letter or in the spirit of the law and what public school boards should do, that's where the issue is.
Anyway, thank you for your phone. Let me ask you...
I think that
Aaron, let me ask you the question. I keep hearing all night about the sale of a public school. Perhaps you can address it. That Rabbi Hart wrote an editorial in the Jewish Week saying, hold on, he said there was a 12-acre campus assessed at $10.2 million market value. Was given only at $3.2 million appraised by the school's board attorney. So I want you to, let's talk about that for 2 months.
I'm not an appraiser, and assessed value, and what the real value of any given public school is, any property is something that we're going to have appraisers discuss, and I'm not going to speak for it. I can only talk about the process. I first want to respond to Rochi. She's absolutely right. When we got on the school board, we realized that we need more parents' participation, and I would, again, venture, based on my conversation with Ari, does Ari know what kind of programs the board tried to implement to engage these parents more so to be involved in light of their limited ability as far as language communication?
My question is, were they successful?
My question is, are you aware that the current from board that you so admonish in public, with only being involved 4 months, do you know if they had any program trying to involve the parents? Because Ruchi so eloquently described a problem, and the board realized that problem early on and tried to implement programs to engage these parents, because again, data shows parents who are involved in their public education.
No question, a lot of them. I remember that they.
But again, Ari,
what you're saying is that Ari does what school board should engage parents.
But the school board should
raise money for schools. We're not saying it's
the interesting thing, but the interesting part is before the front people were on the school board, none of it was done. No money was raised.
Kudos to the school board. But let me ask you a question. In the interest of time, Aaron, in the interest of time.
And Ari, let me just finish. Let me observe. You got
but I asked you a question, but you've answered my question.
The question about the sale of the school.
Yeah, I want to focus on the sale of the school.
I will speak specifically about the sale of the school, and again, I will venture to ask Ari a series of questions, and I will see if he knows anything about it.
In the interest of time, I wanted to address. I have a lot of people waiting to express. So let's answer my question.
The problem that we have is. But Zev, the problem that we have a guy from the Bronx who has good intentions, spent about 2 or 3 months on a very complex issue about the Rockland County.
Let's talk about the sale of the school.
40 miles away, but I need to ask him certain questions to know how to respond.
No, but I asked you a question. We spent an hour so far. I asked you a question about the sale of the school.
I will say simply that this school was put out for a public bid. It was advertised. It was front page news for about 2 months, and no one, not a single person, bid on this school. Furthermore, the State Education Department Commissioner stopped the sale. So that sale is not going through because of, again, Ari's talking about oversight. There's so much oversight in East Ramapo that no other school district has that amount of oversight. So the State Education Department Commissioner stopped that. Now, listen to me very carefully what happened next.
Okay.
So the State Education Commissioner said, this is the way you should market a public school. So the school district was trying to sell another building. And the reason why they're trying to sell these buildings is because they wanted to find money to not be able to cut the various programs. And the data that showed was that East Ramapo, per public school student, had the most square foot than any other school district in Rockland County, about 50 square foot above the next school district. So there's access of property, and we needed the money to supplement, so we shouldn't have to cut these programs. So the State Education Commissioner came back and said, this is the way you should market a school. So the school district spent close to $500,000 more to market the other school, and guess what? Again, not a single bidder. So you had $500,000 that could have gone to education, public education, and the district had to spend that kind of money to publicize it in the New York Times and on the website, and to hire so many real estate advertisers and so on and so forth. And that is the problem that we have in East Ramapo.
Okay, let's take some more phone calls. We have a lot of people waiting to speak to you, so let's take some more phone calls. Please be brief and to the point because time is slipping away. Let's go to Washington Heights, New York. Daniel in Washington Heights, New York. Thank you for waiting. And go ahead, Dan. Your question for our guest. Quick question or comment. Daniel in Washington Heights. Daniel, are you there? If Daniel's not there, then let's go to Shia in Muncie. Go ahead, Shia in Muncie. Your question for our guest. So go ahead, please. Shia.
Okay.
Yes, good luck. Shia.
Good luck.
Your question for our guest.
The question for your guest. Hi. Am I on the radio now?
You're on the radio, so quickly. Your question or comment.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank both of the guests because this is something the public should be aware of, what's going on over here. The only thing that I can think right now is that for some reason Rabbi Aron Hart comes across as someone that has absolutely no clue what's going on over here in the last 10 years. We used to have 11% tax increases up until the Heimish board got on. 11% tax increase, and that was the time that the graduation rate dropped. It dropped from 80% to close to 60%, while our taxes were going up nonstop. And again, I can understand it. It's our choice to send to private school, and we should pay the brunt for that for sending to private school. And we do pay tuition for that, but the state mandates services to the private schools, and those services have to be fulfilled by the district. There is a push right now in Albany to do formula change, where Rabbi Hart, instead of pushing for that, well, this is something Oilers should be pushing for, and most probably they can make it successful if they push. We don't hear anything from him. He's quiet on that. He might just throw one word in where, yeah, formula change is good, but it should be with oversight. Oversight? You got to be kidding me. He mentions all these investigations nonstop. You think for a second that any of the district attorneys or the U.S. attorney or the attorney general, whoever, wouldn't be happy to pick up people that steal money from districts? Nothing to prove anything like that. There was no money. How long?
Answer me a question. Somebody answer me. I appreciate your phone call. How long is the investigations going on? Anybody want to tell me? Is it ongoing? Is it months? Is it years?
You see, the way investigation works, this is Aaron. The way investigation works, they come down and they send down their auditors, whoever, ask for documentation, and you never hear back from them. And then you would have the district officials contacting them and saying, hey, what's happening? So in some cases you will have a response, well, we didn't find anything. Can you issue something? We don't issue if you don't find anything. In other cases, you will have them issue a report saying there's nothing there. But Aron Hart doesn't, he seems not to be aware of all these investigations. He's just reading from press release. I'd urge him to go on the website and look at it. Aron Hart is saying that public school parents don't know what's happening with the money and the budget. Will I ask Ari the following question? Has he tried to go on the East Ramapo Central School District's website and try to download the budget? Every single penny is accounted for where this money is being spent. Did he try to do that?
Ari, did you try? It's about me. This isn't about me. It's not about
it is about you. You interjected yourself.
Hold on. Aaron, you asked him a question, so let him respond to you. Rabbi Hart.
He doesn't seem to want to respond.
You're not letting him. Aaron, let him respond to you. Let him respond. Go ahead, Rabbi.
The Attorney General conducted an investigation and found, you mentioned the sale here. Let's go back to that for a second. The sale of the school for several $1 million under what it's worth. Guess what? The Attorney General found out that the appraiser, who made that appraisal was paid $5,000 by a yeshiva, the yeshiva that was hoping to buy that school, to make that assessment. So there's a pattern. Again, there's a pattern that emerges.
What does that have to do with the school board? You just now said that the Attorney General was accusing the appraiser for doing something with the yeshiva. How does that have anything with the school board?
Because
that's the problem.
There's a conflict
You're confusing the issue. You throw. No, it has nothing to do with the school board. By the way, Ari, I must tell you that currently the school board again put up this building for sale, and they put out bids, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that could have gone for public education that we so cherish. They had to spend on marketing this building, and guess what? Again, no one bid on it. There's only one bidder for approximately the same amount of money that the board wanted to sell it previously. About, I think at that point it might have been like something in the $3.5 million range. Now it's about $4 million, and that's the amount of money they got someone to bid on it. In the meantime, the district had to cut programs because they didn't have the money. They had to spend so much money to market this.
And legal fees, I'm sure.
Amount of money they did before. Of course I see. Of course I see.
Okay, let Rabbi Hart respond. Go ahead, Rabbi Hart, yes.
You see no problem with a public school board selling a public school building to yeshiva, and that yeshiva happens to pay the appraiser $5,000.
It is
appraiser $7 million lower than it was. That's fine. That's kosher.
No. It's extremely troubling. Let me tell you something. It's extremely troubling. In fact, I can tell you many mistakes that the board did. My argument, though, is, A, it's very troubling, though, but does it have to do anything with Aron Hart? Ari,
okay, so maybe
how dare you?
Maybe a way.
It has nothing. When you go and project,
one at a time.
When you go and project the
Hold on. One at a time. You know, I lowered the volume. We have to have civility. One at a time. If one speaks over the other, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to resolve this issue.
Ari, when you project the misgiving of what a yeshiva did on the school board, that is completely, totally, 100% wrong. Okay? You cannot do that.
Okay, let Rabbi Hart respond to you. Aaron, you raised an issue. I'm going to let Rabbi Hart respond to you. In fairness, let him respond to you. Go ahead,
Aaron,
Rabbi Hart.
You recognize the board has made some mistakes. I think a way of moving forward might be to say the board has made some mistakes. There's been some mistakes that have been made. Let's move forward collaboratively with the community. Let's come together. Let's figure out how we can address
absolutely.
And that's
we're making some progress.
Absolutely, but what I'm saying, Ari, what you did wrong is projecting misgivings of a yeshiva onto a school board. That's number one. And number two, when I'm saying that,
the state education secretary found that the school board is negligent in the way they processed that sale. They rushed it through. That was inappropriate. That's why it was
one at a time.
They listened to the state education commissioner, and they had to spend a tremendous amount of money, more money, to do that to get to the same point. But that's not the issue. The issue of you going and saying, projecting a misgiving of yeshiva and the school board, that's wrong.
You made that point. Let's take
no. But the other thing I must say, Ari's saying Aaron acknowledged the board has made mistakes. Then, I couldn't finish my sentence. Absolutely, the board has made mistakes, but so did every other school board, every other municipality. People make mistakes all the time. The question is, do we have a pattern, as Ari is saying? And I think, as I've proved tonight, that, again, it might be a pattern, but Ari is not the person who's going to show this pattern because he seems not to be aware of the fact.
Hold on, but we said let's move forward. So maybe after the course of tonight's program, maybe we can make some progress because
I think that Ari has a good heart, and his heart is in the right place. If he would have spent so much more time, we would have been able to discuss tonight what is the solution.
But by the way, what bothers me, gentlemen, and I'm referring to a report in Bloomberg News, and this is the headline: Hasidim spark backlash in New York City suburbs that entangles Cuomo. When we're talking about Kiryas Yisrael and talking about Bloomsburg, we're talking about these issues, and it seems like there's a backlash against Hasidim, and I'm concerned this is part of the overall picture. And while I think parents are well-meaning, but there's some element of anti-Semitism, I will say, when I see that, or backlash against Hasidim saying it's going to change the neighborhood if too many of them move in and take over. So that's, I think, what's part of it.
As I started out my conversation, where we absolutely failed as a community, not just the school board, but this goes to from community and the entire state of New York. We positively failed in the public relations arena.
I agree with you.
I go and I speak to the public school students. I've recently spoken to students in a college, in RCC, Rockland Community College. I got a phone call this past Friday of the professor because they're gonna graduate. They called me to for the commencement and all of that. He told me that they asked the students, "What is the highlight of the year?" Many of the students responded that my conversation with them was the highlight of the year.
Terrific. I'm happy there should be more. I love that. That's terrific.
The reason why I say this is because we have absolutely categorically failed in the public relations arena. I fault myself and I fault my fellow brethren. We need to reach out. In fact, I got involved in the public school district for one reason, to bridge the gap.
Important.
I feel that I was able to
PR is important.
Very smooth.
Rabbi Aron Hart, let me ask you this question. My question that I asked about I'm concerned. Again, I live in New York City, but I'm concerned when I see the Bloomberg reports. There's a backlash against Hasidim and what's happening around, but it's part of that backlash.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very concerned about that.
Hold on. I asked Rabbi Hart.
Rabbi Hart. The question was directed to me.
Rabbi Hart.
Was directed to me. Look, I'm very concerned about that as well. I'm very concerned. That report, I found it to be offensive, and, yes, it is a concern, and I think we need to address it proactively. I think there is a PR issue that needs to be addressed. There are also deeper issues. But look, fundamentally, I think the statement of Hillel, right? If we're not for ourselves, who will be for us? So we have to represent our interests in the public sphere. We have to advocate for our needs, absolutely. But the second half is, if I'm just for myself, what am I? We as a Jewish community, as an Orthodox community, I believe it is our divine mission to go out and to improve the lives of those who are around us, those who we have power over, those we have influence over. So we must do that proactively. And there's a PR side to it, but there's also a management side to that. And I think there was a failure in PR, but I think in this case of the school board, of the education of 9,000 public school students, of the cuts, of the rates of test scores and graduation relative to the other districts, there has been a failure here.
But Ari, how can you repeat this? Ari, how can you repeat this when I just proved to you that since the Frum board got involved, we got the graduation rate from the mid-60s to the 80s? How can you repeat that even? When you talk about cuts, do you know that in Finger Lakes region in Greece, they're reducing their marching band? Do you know that in Everland Park they eliminated arts in the education program? You've given the statistics in the shortness of time. Let's not go through again.
Art, music, sports, special ed, family and
But do you know? But how about other school districts? There is a problem throughout the state.
Teaching assistants, deans,
but there is a problem.
Honors, AP classes.
Ari, how come you only know?
Plan director, et cetera. The list is.
How come you only know what's happening?
One at a time. It's there cuts all over, and I understand that. Anyway, we're going to have to take some phone calls, so let's squeeze in Yossi from Rockland County. Yossi from Rockland County. Quick question. Go ahead, Yossi, Rockland County.
You can't. East Ramapo is not Rockland, not Rochester, but you can't compare it to
so when you're talking
County
about
districts.
Rockland, that's a very good topic. The problem that we have in East Ramapo, now we're going to go into talking about solution. Are you familiar with, you say Rockland, so I guess you're only familiar with the Rockland School District, although you live in the Bronx. Okay. Do you know the 8 school districts in Rockland County? You keep on mentioning relative to the other districts. Can you name
one school district? What do you want?
I'm asking you, do you know any of the other, you talk about East Ramapo relative to other districts in Rockland. So I ask you about Syracuse, you don't know. So can you name one school district in Rockland County other than
What would you like to share? What would you like to
know?
I would 30 seconds, Aaron, because I have calls, we got a break.
Again, you're projecting like you know the issue in Rockland County. It seems you have no clue. Do you know how many school districts are in Rockland County? You seem to say that East Ramapo relative to other school districts. How many school districts are in Rockland County?
The stats that I've shown so that New York State English language and math are
Ari,
lower relative to all the other Rockland County
you
school
don't know.
districts.
How many school districts are in Rockland County? You don't know.
I believe there are 8 or 9.
There is 8 school districts. Now, there's a school district called...
He passed the test. Okay. Anyway, we're going to take Yossi. You know what? We're going to have to take the phone. Yossi from Rockland County, your quick question to our guest. Go ahead, Yossi from Rockland County. Let's go to Heshi in Spring Valley. I believe it's Heshi in Spring Valley. Let's go. Okay, you're on the air with our special guest. Okay, your question or comment. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
That special ed children shouldn't be going to to Yiddish-speaking classes when there is no Yiddish-speaking classes in the public school? You disagree with
law, yeah, but I'm saying I support a repeal of
before you held it against the school board. Ari, that's the problem. You can't have it both ways.
Well, look, even if you disagree with the law, you have to follow it.
No, of course we disagree. Of course we don't disagree with the law. The question is how do you interpret the law? So what we try to do is have an in-house Yiddish-speaking program, and your very same people that you align yourself with, like McWilliams Incorporated, went against the school board for having a Yiddish-speaking class. It's okay to have a Spanish-speaking, it's okay to have a Haitian-speaking, but not a Yiddish-speaking. The very same people you align yourself with.
We're asking for fiscal
We created a Yiddish-speaking program inside the public school system, so you can't send a Hamish Yiddish-speaking special ed child to a private school or a public school such as KJ. You can't have a program in the school district for Yiddish-speaking kids. So, and you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. This is the people you align yourself with. I think unintentionally. You don't know this. If you would have known, you wouldn't have aligned yourself with them. And listen,
could you make that point? And we're gonna take Benny from Rockland County because we're literally out of time. I want to squeeze it. Benny from Rockland County, your question or comment? Go ahead, Benny.
Yes, hi. Good to everyone there. Question to Ari: did you ever meet with parents of special ed children, of Jewish special ed children in Ramapo, before you interjected in this whole thing?
Good question. You met with public school students.
Right. Did you ever meet? I'm very involved with parents that have children that need special ed in Ramapo. And they struggle. They struggle every single day where to place their children. And they have such a burden because they can't pay the bill.
You raised the question. I'm going to succinctly because we're
pressed
with time.
That's a good question. Did you meet
Rabbi Aron Hart
with public school students? Ari, you met with public school students, but you didn't. Did you meet with special ed students from the private school? Or
the question we're talking about is the actions of the board.
I'm asking you a simple question. You want to change the way the board is operated, but you never met with these parents.
That's not the question. The question is how does this board act?
You're flaunting the issue, but you're flaunting the issue that the board has placed special ed children, and you flaunt the issue that you met with public school students. If that's not the issue, why did you meet with public school students? The answer is that it's part of the whole conversation.
No, I'll tell you what the answer is. I'll tell you what the answer is.
One at a time. Go ahead.
I don't understand. I don't even. This doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not advocating that people shouldn't get special ed funds. It's a state mandate. Of course they should. State mandate. Kids should get the money they're legally entitled to.
But the people you align yourself with disagree with you. The people you aligned with
have you read what Rockland Clergy for Social Justice is asking for? Two things. They're asking for fiscal oversight because of these issues with management and the board.
Are you aware with
and they're asking for a broader study to make sure.
Is Reverend McWilliams part of that group? Is Reverend McWilliams part of that group?
There are 30 clergy part of this group. There are 30 clergy.
Okay, is Reverend McWilliams part of that group?
Instead of a character attack, just focus on the issues.
So I want to focus on the issue.
We're trying to move forward.
Gentlemen, we're moving forward. We're going around the circus. Let's pick Heshi from Brooklyn. Heshi from Brooklyn, your quick question or comment. Heshi from Brooklyn.
But not with special ed.
Heshi from Brooklyn, your question. Go ahead, Heshi.
Yeah, this Ari guy from Yuri Litzedek group, nothing but self-hating Jews.
Oh, if you're going to get into that, we're not going to put you on the air. Sarah from Muncie, you're on the air with our guests. If everybody be civil, if you're going to get into off these tax, you're going to be off the air. Go ahead, Go ahead, Sarah in Muncie. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Sarah from Muncie. You're on the air with...
Sarah, are you there?
Hello? I'm
yes,
here.
Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead. Your question or comment, please.
Go ahead, Sarah in Muncie. Go ahead, please.
You have to lower your radio.
Hello? My radio. Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to ask also about first of all, that they're speaking about the boards. Most of the board members their children do go to private schools. So we do not only have to speak about the Jewish people, Yiddish people there, especially the Board of Ed people. I'd like to know why so many Spanish children are there in our schools, and and especially the illegals, so they are constantly complaining about the lack of money that they do not have for many of the programs, and a lot of this money is going towards our illegals, and not even to those that who really are, our whole time. And secondly, why they're complaining about the marching bands and the art and the sports when in our private schools we don't have it. And if we want to give it in our private schools, then we pay it from our own pocket. And why is it that it costs so much more money for a public school to take why does it cost so much money that each student costs so much money and our private school costs a lot less?
I think that every child in East Ramapo, if their parents are illegal or not, deserve an sound education, believe it or not. I think they do. They live here. We, as a society, we have an obligation. Illegal or legal, notwithstanding.
But that's coming out of our tax money, and this constantly is our taxes are constantly being raised and raised and raised, because the first thing they complain about is that they don't have the money.
But I think what Aron was saying is they shouldn't be penalized if the parents are illegal.
This is Aron Wieder speaking, and I strongly believe that these children deserve an education. We have strived to provide to them a sound education. In fact, we were able to provide many of the programs that the neighboring school district in Rockland County provide. For example, Ari, do you know that East Ramapo, at least when I was on the board, I don't know now, I was part of the FRM board, we've provided more than average AP courses to the high schools than our neighboring public schools. I guess you don't know that as well.
Anyway, thank you for your phone call. Here's an email coming in from Rockland. Changing state formula would give this district millions of dollars more. Please ask
Change.org. On next week. You have to have us on next week just to talk about that issue. That is the single most important.
Would that solve the old issue? That there's more money? Would that solve all these problems?
Absolutely.
So that's Change.org. They can search for Change Formula.
The problem with the formula.
If you want to do that.
We have. I forgot to plug that. This is very important. Anyone, I beg and plead, anyone that listening to this program should go on Change.org and sign the petition to change the formula for the East Ramapo School District. You just do a Google search. You go on Twitter, Facebook, whatnot. You will find that even if you don't live in East Ramapo, if you want to be part of a solution, if you want to be part of a Kiddush Hashem, and I'm sure that Ari would agree with me that we need to do a Kiddush Hashem, even if you don't live in East Ramapo, I plead, I beg, go on the East Ramapo School District, go on Change.org, search for the petition and sign it. It will take you less than 20 seconds. I did it.
Here's an email for you. It's important to go to that website.
As far as the formula, let me just say, as far as the formula, it's very simple. If we change the formula to where we need to be, and we could go into that, East Ramapo will be able to restore all the programs that were cut, and then some, and we will be able to live b'shalom with our neighbors, our constituents. And by the way, my district, the 13th district, is entirely in the East Ramapo School District. I meet with these parents. I meet with the public school parents on a daily basis. I meet with the private school parents. I meet with the taxpayers. We need to advocate for the formula change, which is the greatest injustice happening to the children.
Important. Literally 2 minutes left. Let me turn. Here's an email for Rabbi Aron Hart. Rabbi, can you tell me more about your organization? Who backs you? This is what Dove writes.
Sure. We were founded 7 years ago. In terms of who backs us, a lot of we have letters of support from everyone from Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs to former Mayor Michael Bloomberg to many other Rabbanim, Rabbi Saul Berman. Many great rabbis have supported our work, and I can go on, but I know we're short on time.
Okay, so let's squeeze in Moshe from Spring Valley, very patiently waiting. Moshe in Spring Valley, your quick question or comment. Moshe in Spring Valley, go ahead, Moshe, your turn.
Yes, am I on the air?
Yeah, quickly, your question or comment.
Yeah, good to all of you. I want to just make one point which I think is missing from the conversation that I've heard so far, that, you mentioned all these lack of funding and the way it's hurting the public school sector, and I think that's absolutely true. But you failed to mention, I think that's what gets lost. I think what Rabbi Hart is definitely missing, because he's not informed. I'm not sure if Mr. Wieder knows this, but the missing is that the private non-public school yeshiva students are missing and are lacking services that the district is absolutely required to provide by law to them, also because of the lack of funding. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if either of you knew this, but you know that, under state law, every single, private school must receive what's called nursing and related services, which provides a lot of different therapies and nurses to the private school students in the yeshivas in the equivalent, exact equivalent. So if you provide 0.125 of a nurse to a public school student, you must provide same to private school. Over 50% of the yeshiva students now in East Ramapo, and it's probably the only district in the state, are not receiving any of these services. And the reason, and I should say, the public school sector is receiving it, and the reason they're not receiving this is because there's no funding. So what surprises me is that you're not realizing the yeshiva students who made up a very big portion of them from poor students as well, are lacking tons of services that are required by law, also because of this lack of funding.
We appreciate
instead of looking at this as us versus them versus
Thank you for
us.
We're staying there with you. We appreciate that. We're unfortunately out of time, and I want to squeeze in one more phone call, so we thank you so much for that. Phones are still blazing, so your quick question or comment. You're going to be our last caller. Go ahead.
Yes, am I on the air?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, Rockland County. Yes.
Yes. Yes, this Rabbi Hart, I can understand why he is complaining over here, because he's a dying breed. One Orthodox is dying. They want to bring down the issues. Why is he complaining about
come on. It's not a modern Orthodox. Come on.
You were promoting before microphones are shul. Shame on you, Steph.
By the way, I'll first of all, shame on me. Okay. By the way, what I said, since you said something, and I will explain to you what I said was when I had Rabbi Rav Kevin on the air before. I said that someone came up with a halakhically acceptable microphone, and I said in certain shuls it would be good to have a microphone that's halakhically acceptable. In the 50s, they used to have shuls which wasn't as halakhically acceptable as this one was, to which Rabbi Kravik agreed with me. He said it's more of a political issue than a religious issue. If it's halakhically acceptable, I think there's certain shuls that should have it, because otherwise davening is not heard, people are talking. So I stand by my position, but I appreciate your phone call. We're out of time, so we shared the microphone with all of you. Rabbi Aron Hart, thank you for being with us. For Mori Letzedek, thank you. Also to the legislator from Rockland County, and thank you, Aron Wieder, for being with us. And can we get together? Will be a follow-up after this broadcast?
Well, I would, as I said before, off the year, I've spoken to Ari if he wants to reach out to me. If there's any way I can reach out to him, if he really wants to be involved in a very productive and positive way to make a Kiddush Hashem as opposed to Chas v'Shalom Achil Hashem, absolutely.
Rabbi Hart, will you take him up on this?
Great honor. We can stay on the phone after this and arrange it. I'd be happy to.
Wonderful. I'll let you both gentlemen do it. Thank you for being part of our broadcast. This concludes our programming for tonight. And you can go to our website right now, talklinecommunications.com. We're a 24-hour-a-day listen line, 401-347-0304, extension number 1. Remember, with you weeknights as well on WSNR from 7 to 9 p.m. We have a tribute to Rabbi Shlomo Kalmach coming up this week. We'll have Rabbi Aron Rekefet again. You don't want to miss our broadcast. We have the Chief Rabbi of Israel. Hopefully will join us this week as well. And if you have an Android phone, punch in Talkline or Zev Brenner in the Google store, and you can download a free app. You can get us 24 hours a day. Thank you for listening. This is the Talkline Communications Network.
This is Leon Goldenberg inviting you to listen to my show, Community Matters. That's on every Saturday night on WMCA 570. I will be interviewing elected officials, community leaders, things that are really critical importance to our community, to get everybody involved, to make everybody understand what are the important issues that face our community. I welcome you to join me every Saturday night. I also welcome you, if you want to be a sponsor, to either contact Zev Brenner directly or call me at 718-972-1800. Looking forward to seeing you on the radio.
Let's go to Heshi in Spring Valley. I believe it's Heshi in Spring Valley. Let's go. Okay, you're on the air with our special guest. Okay, your question or comment. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
You said that special ed children shouldn't be going to Yiddish-speaking classes when there is no Yiddish-speaking classes in the public school. You disagree with
law, yeah, but I'm saying I support a repeal of
law. Before you held it against the school board. Ari, that's the problem. You can't have it both ways.
Yes, well, look, even if you disagree with the law, you have to follow it.
No, of course we disagree. Of course we don't disagree with the law. The question is how do you interpret the law? So what we try to do is have an in-house Yiddish-speaking program, and your very same people that you align yourself with, like McWilliams Incorporated, went against the school board for having a Yiddish-speaking class. It's okay to have a Spanish-speaking, it's okay to have a Haitian-speaking, but not a Yiddish-speaking. The very same people you align yourself with.
we're asking for fiscal
We created a
oversight.
Yiddish-speaking program inside the public school system, so you can't send a Hamish Yiddish-speaking special ed child to a private school or a public school such as KJ. You can't have a program in the school district for Yiddish-speaking kid. So, and you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. This is the people you aligned yourself with. I think unintentionally. You don't know this. If you would have known, you wouldn't have aligned yourself with them. And listen,
good, you made that point, and we're gonna take Benny from Rockland County because we're literally out of time. I want to squeeze it. Benny from Rockland County, your question or comment? Go ahead, Benny.
Yes, hi. Good to everyone there. Question to Ari. Did you ever meet with parents of special ed children, of Jewish special ed children in Ramapo, before you interjected in this whole thing?
Good question. You met with public school students.
Right. Did you ever meet? I'm very involved with parents that have children that need special ed in Ramapo. And they struggle. They struggle every single day where to place their children. And they have such a burden because they can't pay them.
You raised the question. I'm going to succinctly because we're
Ari,
with
that's
time.
a good question. Did you meet
Rabbi Aron Hart
with public school students? Ari, you met with public school students, but you didn't. Did you meet with special ed students from the private school? Or
the
their
question
parents?
we're talking about is the actions of the board.
I'm asking you a simple question. You want to change the way the board is operated, but you never met with these
parents. That's not
parents.
the question. The question is, how does this board
Well,
act?
you are flaunting the issue, but you're flaunting the issue that the board has placed special ed children, and you flaunt the issue that you met with public school students. If that's not the issue, why did you meet with public school students? The answer is that it's part of the whole conversation.
No, I'll tell you what the answer is. I'll tell you what the answer is.
One at a time. Go ahead.
I don't understand. I don't even. This doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not advocating that people shouldn't get special ed funds. It's a state mandate. Of course they should. State mandate. Kids should get the money they're legally entitled to.
But the people you align yourself with disagree with you. The people you aligned with
have you read what Rockland Clergy for Social Justice is asking for? Two things. They're asking for fiscal oversight because of these issues with management on the board.
Are you aware with
they're asking for a broader study to make sure.
Is Reverend McWilliams part of that group? Is Reverend McWilliams part of that group?
There are 30 clergy part of this group. There are 30 clergy.
Okay, is Reverend McWilliams part of that group?
Instead of a character attack, just focus on the issues. So
I want to focus on the issue.
Trying to move forward.
Gentlemen, we're moving forward. We're going around the circus. Let's pick Heshi from Brooklyn. Heshi from Brooklyn, your quick question or comment. Heshi from Brooklyn.
But not with special ed.
Heshi from Brooklyn, your question. Go ahead, Heshi.
Yeah, this Ari guy from ERCSD group, nothing but self-hating Jews.
Oh, if you're going to get into that, we're not going to put you on the air. Sarah from Muncie, you're on the air with our guests. If everybody be civil, if you're going to get into off these tax, you're going to be off the air. Go ahead, Go ahead, Sarah in Muncie. Go ahead, please.
Sarah from Muncie, you're on the air with...
Sarah, are you there?
Hello? I'm
yes,
here.
Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead. Your question or comment, please.
Go ahead, Sarah in Muncie. Go ahead, please.
You have to lower your radio.
Yeah, hello. My radio. Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to ask also about first of all, that they're speaking about the boards. Most of the board members their children do go to private schools. So we do not only have to speak about the Jewish people, Yiddish people there, especially the Board of Ed people. I'd like to know why so many Spanish children are there in our schools, and and especially the illegals, so they are constantly complaining about the lack of money that they do not have for many of the programs, and a lot of this money is going towards our illegals, and not even to those that who really are, our whole time. And secondly, why they complaining about the marching bands and the art and the sports when in our private schools we don't have it? And if we want to give it in our private schools, then we pay it from our own pocket. And why is it that it costs so much more money for a public school to take why does it cost so much money that each student costs so much money and our private school costs a lot less?
I think that every child in East Ramapo, if their parents are illegal or not, deserve an solid education, believe it or not. I think they do. They live here. We, as a society, we have an obligation. Illegal or legal, notwithstanding.
But that's coming out of our tax money, and this constantly our taxes are constantly being raised and raised and raised, because the first thing they complain about is that they don't have the money.
But I think what Aron was saying, they shouldn't be penalized if the parents are illegal.
This is Aron Wieder speaking, and I strongly believe that these children deserve an education. We have strived to provide to them a sound education. In fact, we were able to provide many of the programs that the neighboring school district in Rockland County provide. For example, Ari, do you know that East Ramapo, at least when I was on the board, I don't know now, I was part of the FRM board, we've provided more than average AP courses to the high schools than our neighboring public schools. I guess you don't know that as well.
Anyway, thank you for your phone call. Here's an email coming in from Rockland. Changing state formula would give this district millions of dollars more. Please ask
Change.org. On next week. You have to have us on next week just to talk about that issue. That is the single most important.
Would that solve the old issue? That there's more money? Would that solve all these problems?
Absolutely.
So that's change.org. They can search for change formula fees.
The problem with the formula.
If you want to do that.
We have. I forgot to plug that. This is very important. Anyone, I beg and plead, anyone that listening to this program should go on change.org and sign the petition to change the formula for the East Ramapo School District. You just do a Google search, you go on Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, you will find that even if you don't live in East Ramapo, if you want to be part of a solution, if you want to be part of a Kiddush Hashem, and I'm sure that Ari would agree with me that we need to do a Kiddush Hashem, even if you don't live in East Ramapo, I plead, I beg, go on the East Ramapo School District, go on change.org, search for the petition and sign it. It will take you less than 20 seconds. I did it.
Here's an email it's important to go to that website.
As far as the formula, let me just say, as far as the formula, it's very simple. If we change the formula to where we need to be, and we could go into that, East Ramapo will be able to restore all the programs that were cut, and then some, and we will be able to live b'shalom with our neighbors, our constituents. And by the way, my district, the 13th district, is entirely in the East Ramapo School District. I meet with these parents. I meet with the public school parents on a daily basis. I meet with the private school parents. I meet with the taxpayers. We need to advocate for the formula change, which is the greatest injustice happening to the children.
It's important. Literally 2 minutes left. Let me turn. Here's an email for Rabbi Aron Hart. Rabbi, can you tell me more about your organization? Who backs you? This is what Dove writes.
Sure. We were founded 7 years ago. In terms of who backs us, a lot of, we have letters of support from everyone from Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs to former Mayor Michael Bloomberg to many other Rabbanim, Rabbi Saul Berman. Many great rabbis have supported our work. And I can go on, but I know we're short on time.
Okay, so let's squeeze in Moshe from Spring Valley, very patiently waiting. Moshe in Spring Valley, your quick question or comment. Moshe in Spring Valley. Go ahead, Moshe, your turn.
Yes, am I on the air?
Yeah, quickly, your question or comment.
Yeah, good to all of you. I want to just make one point which I think is missing from the conversation that I've heard so far, that, you mentioned all these lack of funding and the way it's hurting the public school sector, and I think that's absolutely true. But you failed to mention, I think that's what gets lost. I think what Rabbi Hart is definitely missing, because he's not informed. I'm not sure if Mr. Wieder knows this, but the missing is that the private non-public school yeshiva students are missing and are lacking services that the district is absolutely required to provide by law to them, also because of the lack of funding. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if either of you knew this, but do you know that, under state law, every single, private school must receive what's called nursing and related services, which provides a lot of different therapies and nurses to the private school students in the yeshivas in the exact equivalent. So if you provide 0.125 of a nurse to a public school student, you must provide same to private school. Over 50% of the yeshiva students now in East Ramapo, and it's probably the only district in the state, are not receiving any of these services. And the reason, and I should say, the public school sector is receiving it, and the reason they're not receiving this is because there's no funding. So what surprises me is that you're not realizing the yeshiva students who are made up, a very big portion of them from poor students as well, are lacking tons of services that are required by law, also because of this lack of funding.
We appreciate
instead of looking at this as us versus them versus us.
We're sharing that with you. We appreciate that. We're unfortunately out of time, and I want to squeeze in one more phone call, so we thank you so much for that. Phones are still blazing, so your quick question or comment. You're going to be our last caller. Go ahead.
Yes, am I on the air?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, Rockland County. Yes.
Yes. Yes. This Rabbi Hart, I can understand why he is complaining over here, because it's a dying breed. One Orthodox is dying. They want to bring down the issues. What is he complaining about?
Come on. It's not a modern Orthodox place to cover. Come on.
You were promoting before microphones and shul. Shame on you, Steph.
By the way, I'll first of all, shame on me. Okay. By the way, what I said, since you said something, and I will explain to you what I said was when I had Rabbi Rav Kevin on the air before. I said that someone came up with a halakhically acceptable microphone, and I said in certain shuls it would be good to have a microphone that's halakhically acceptable. In the 50s, they used to have shuls which wasn't as halakhically acceptable as this one was, to which Rabbi Kravik agreed with me. He said it's more of a political issue than a religious issue. If it's halakhically acceptable, I think there's certain shuls that should have it, because otherwise davening is not heard, people are talking. So I stand by my position, but I appreciate your phone call. We're out of time, so we shared the microphone with all of you. Rabbi Aron Hart, thank you for being with us. For Mori Letzedek, thank you. Also, to the legislator from Rockland County, and thank you, Aron Wieder, for being with us. And can we get together? Will be a follow-up after this broadcast?
Well, I would, as I said before, off the air, I spoke to Ari if he wants to reach out to me. If there's any way I could reach out to him, if he really wants to be involved in a very productive and positive way to make a Kiddush Hashem as opposed to Chas v'Shalom Achil Hashem, absolutely.
Rabbi Hart, will you take him up on this offer?
My great honor. We can stay on the phone after this and arrange it. I'd be happy to.
Wonderful. I'll let you both gentlemen do it. Thank you for being part of our broadcast. This concludes our programming for tonight. And you can go to our website right now, talklinecommunications.com. We're a 24-hour-day listen line, 401-347-0304, extension number 1. Remember, with you weeknights as well on WSNR from 7 to 9 p.m. We have a tribute to Rabbi Shlomo Kalmach coming up this week. We'll have Rabbi Aron Rekefet again. You don't want to miss our broadcast. We have the Chief Rabbi of Israel. Hopefully will join us this week as well. And if you have an Android phone, punch in Talkline or Zev Brenner in the Google store, and you can download a free app. You can get us 24 hours a day. Thank you for listening. This is the Talkline Communications Network.